there was a potential for him to actually be a main event level upper card superstar, and unfortunately that didn't happen. Now, kind of give you a little background on what I'm talking about. In 1999, Test was involved in a storyline with Stephanie McMahon where he was dating her, and then Shane McMahon said, no, I'm going to be the big brother and say that shouldn't happen. They had a great matchup against each other at SummerSlam, and it built up to Test proposing to Stephanie, and then Triple H got involved to kind of, I guess, to really put a wedge and really grind the gears of Vince McMahon, which got into a matchup at Armageddon, which was Triple H versus Vince McMahon in a no-holds-barred match, and basically if Triple H won, he would get a title shot, and if Vince won, Triple H agreed to null the marriage, and of course Triple H won, which created the McMahon-Helmsley era. Now, what happened to Test in that point was that he ended up being just cast aside. He did a tag team deal with Albert to create TNA with Trish Stratus, and then they would go into not really doing that much, and they would eventually break up. Test would go on to get a European championship run and battle against Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 17, but really there was not too much of a highlight for Test. He definitely deserved a lot more than what he was, and I think that during the Invasion storyline, they definitely tried to make him more of a star. I just think that they were doing about it the wrong way. So, here's basically what I would propose. Definitely would keep the whole Triple H deal, marriage thing with Stephanie, definitely keep that there. But instead of having Vince McMahon compete against Triple H, have Test compete against Triple H. Same thing, where if Test wins, Triple H agrees to null and void the marriage, and if Triple H wins, he gets a title shot. So we have that go through, and basically the same result happens. They have a good matchup between each other, and Test gets beaten down and gets a headshot by a sledgehammer and gets pinned, and he's taken off of TV for about a couple months. Now, of course, the whole thing with Stephanie happens, and she basically says, that she did have feelings for Test, but she realizes that Test was just another one of those yes men provided by her father, Vince McMahon. So this is kind of one of those things that really shows that she's trying to stick it to her father. You still have the same build-up. You have the Royal Rumble No Way Out matches. Those still stay the same because why not? I would still keep the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match at WrestleMania. But I honestly would not have the whole, every McMahon in everybody's corner. I would definitely focus more on the competitors on there. You could still have the McMahons in every corner as kind of support, but don't have them be the main storyline. Have the wrestlers be the main storyline. So you definitely still would have what goes down, which was Rock beating the Big Show and eliminating him, Triple H defeating Mick Foley, beating him. And it does boil down to The Rock and Triple H. And it seems like everything's going the Rock ways when Vince McMahon hits him with the chair and turns on him. And it seems like Triple H is about ready to beat him down. He even hits the pedigree, 1, 2, and The Rock kicks out. So Triple H is thinking, what else can I do? The Rock is just a battered and bloodied mess. And Triple H goes out and he grabs a sledgehammer. Then you hear Test theme music play. He comes out and he beats down on Triple H. He just demolishes him. Hits a pump handle slam, hits a big boot, and then The Rock does the people's elbow. Bam! 1, 2, 3. The Rock wins the title at WrestleMania. So, obviously now, Triple H is livid at the fact that Test has come back, and even Stephanie is just in shock. She's just thinking, well, what just happened here? And Test kind of gives a look of just, I can't believe that you did this. And this builds up to a rematch between The Rock and Triple H at Backlash, but The Rock still retains via help from Test. And during this time, Test is trying to get his hands on Triple H, but of course the McMahon-Helmsley era says, you have to earn your way to it. So he's basically battling up against everybody. He's building all of this momentum, defeating the New Age Outlaws. And, if they want, they could incorporate, Albert into that and make a little bit of a tag team deal there. But don't go full on TNA. I'm definitely not saying that. Just have like this brief feel, because I really want to push Test as a singles star. Have even Test at the pay-per-view go one-on-one against the Big Show, which would be, well, actually, I think, wasn't that? Yeah, that would be better, because I think during that time, that was where, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was during the whole Big Show, Kurt Angle. No, that was 99, so that would still work. So have Test and Big Show fight off against each other, in which Test gets a big victory. And again, Test helps The Rock retain the title in the main event. And now Triple H is thinking, I'm done with this. I'm fucking done with this. I want to beat Test's ass. I want to destroy him. And Stephanie is showing a little bit of compassion. He said, you have to remember that this is a guy who is just going off of emotion. You can't just beat him mentally. So, physically, I should say. Mentally, jeez. Then you have Stephanie try to, talk to Tess and say that, hey, if it were a perfect world, then, we would be together. She was just basically trying to distract Tess, and Tess just saying, I already heard what you said. You said that I was just basically another yes man for your dad. That was not the case. And, he's basically casting her aside, not even giving her a chance. And we're building up to a matchup between Triple H and Test at Judgment Day. And it's going to be a no disqualification matchup. And, well, actually, no. Yeah, we'll make it a no DQ match. But during the matchup, everybody on the Helmsley, basically everybody in the Helmsley McMahon regime, they come in, they interfere. And then everybody who's a babyface is helping out with Test, because they're thinking, we're sick and tired of this, But in the end, Triple H does get the victory. Hold on. There's going to be a bigger storyline that gets involved in this. And I know a lot of people are already thinking, well, Test is now getting buried. What's the point of this? You have to remember that it's not always a burial deal unless you do it the right way. Or in this case, the wrong way. In this way, we're still giving Test a little bit of that, upper card main event feel. We're trying to get him, a little more comfortable at that point. And if it's working out, great. If not, then, well, at least we can still keep him in the mid card. But right now, we're still going to wrap this up just a little bit. So, builds up into, I believe, the King of the Ring, which we see Triple H and Test both challenge The Rock for the WWE Championship, in which The Rock still retains. And then we finally get to a once and for all deal on an episode of Monday Night Raw. And during that episode of Raw, we get the debut of Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus, of course, very beautiful, very different than what Stephanie was. Basically, Test is using Trish to kind of get under Stephanie's skin, and now you're giving Trish a little bit more of a little showtime. So on Raw, we see a steel cage match between Test and Triple H. Of course, everybody else is banned except for Trish and Stephanie McMahon. This matchup goes on, and it is indeed a brutal almost like a brutal massacre between the two of them. And these two just beat the living hell out of each other. There comes a point where Stephanie tries to get involved, but Trish, of course, gets involved and basically shoves Stephanie down, evening the odds. Triple H is, of course, thinking, like, well, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. That distracts him enough to see Test hit a huge, massive boot on Triple H, and he realizes that's not enough. So he actually picks up Triple H again. Bam! Second big boot. And he says, that's not enough for me either. Gets him up one more time. Thunderous third boot for the 1, 2, 3. And this is where you would end the storyline between Triple H and Test. Now that he's gotten a main event level victory over Triple H can go back to worrying about The Rock. And Also, Tess can say, hey, I finally got a victory over Triple H. I feel like I am unbeatable. I feel like I can do awesome. And you also are creating a manager in Trish Stratus for now. She's obviously going to want to be a wrestler, but we're not getting into that for a little while until she has the proper training. We build up to another storyline for Test and Trish involving Chyna and Eddie Guerrero, who Eddie Guerrero, after SummerSlam, beat Chyna for the Intercontinental Championship. She was knocked out, and then Eddie just was consoling her and had her shoulders down. Everybody remembers that moment. It was awesome. But you build up an Intercontinental title feud between Eddie Guerrero and Test, where eventually Test does win the Intercontinental title. That is kind of where I would see Test kind of building up, and he definitely does build up to be a great Intercontinental champion. You keep him as a face for a while. If you want to, you can actually have a little bit of a twist turn between, have like one of those double turns where Chyna and Eddie go face, and Trish and Test go heel. But all in all, it will just eventually happen. What will eventually happen is that basically Trish is one of the reasons why Eddie and Chyna split. So that kind of helps Eddie Guerrero focus more as a singles competitor and focus more on the Intercontinental title, the European title, keep him on the mid card for a while until he finally gets his world title shot in. Excuse me, I think I got a sneeze coming on. Nope, we're good. Eventually getting an Intercontinental title, European title, world title in 2004. Test still builds up himself as a main event level player, and hopefully that will go into transition in 2001. So that is kind of what I would do for the Test storyline involving Triple H. So let me know what you guys think. Definitely would love to hear you guys' feedback. And even if you guys give a lot of views, I know that a lot of times you love when I do these storyline deals and give my perspective. I think that I definitely want to say that the Randy Orton Undertaker thing got some good build up. Trying to remember what was the other. Oh, a lot of the Randy Orton storylines definitely got some love for that. So maybe I need to focus more on Randy Orton. Who knows? But that is going to wrap it up for this edition of the Squared Circle Podcast. Of course, guys, you can check us out on Twitter. Myself at Nate Effin Great, as well as Spencer Hart at Spencer Hart TSC, Max Speedy at Agent Cooper 1989, my co-host Victory Bell for Change the F Up at Victory Clark 04. You can also give her a check out on her Facebook page as well as the website victorybell.com. Don't forget, you guys, that in a few weeks we will have the merger between ourselves and the Smart Money Podcast. You can also check them out at Smart Money at K-Lock. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's going to take me just a minute, but AJ Jensen and Chris Lockman of the Smart Money Podcast, definitely give them a check out. And they actually just uploaded their recent deal. Chris Lockman at KLock7, AJ Jensen at AJens81. Definitely check them out when you guys get a chance. And like we said, we will do the merger on the weekend of the Royal Rumble, so January 28th and 29th. Definitely check that out, as well as our live stream reaction video of the Royal Rumble, because it is going to be awesome. Trying to think if there's anything else going on. There's going to be an interview on Thursday the 19th with another independent wrestler, so definitely check that out. Very soon, I believe that they're going to be Don Tony and Kevin Castle. I appeared on Castle Chronicles and talked to Kevin Castle about a lot of things, including wrestling, movies, some current events. So when that comes out, be sure to check that out. I will post it up on my Twitter as well as my Facebook page. That is going to wrap it up for this edition of the Squared Circle Podcast. Of course, you can find us on Spreaker.com, iTunes, Player.fm, PodDirectory.com, Stitcher.com, TuneIn Radio, IW Nerd, as well as Satchel Podcast Player for the Android and smartphone, SoundCloud, and Mr. NTG 1990 on the YouTube, guys. See you guys on, I think it's going to happen on Thursday is the next edition of the Squared Circle Podcast, so check you guys out later. Bye-bye.